So, hey guys, welcome to another episode of Speak Easy, the behind the scenes of what it is to be the speaker or author. And guys, we know that if you're a speaker, if you're an author, you're also an entrepreneur. So let's talk about that because the journey is not easy. But, I feel like in this journey, a lot of times we have so many people that say, I wish I could do this. I wish I could be the boxer. I wish I could be a writer. I wish I could be a speaker. I wish. And sometimes as a coach, we just need to stand in front of people and say, instead of wishing, I need you to be the champion. Be the champion of whatever it is that has been your dream. Be the champion of whatever it is that you've been talking yourself out of. Go back and become the champion in that. Now, it sounds good to just tell people to be the champion, but we have to give them a process. We got to give them some action steps because we can't think that it's going to just snap our fingers and it's going to happen overnight. Doesn't work that way. So with that being said, I am your host, Altavice Pelzer, the voice coach, professional speaker, certified life coach, and Amazon bestselling author. I have an amazing guest with me today. I have Miss Jillian. Hello, Jillian.
Hello, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Now, we have some great things that we're going to be talking about, mainly because Jillian is like super awesome in my book. And I've been one of those people that have seen when it comes to boxing and I'm martial arts. I've always been one of those people who's been fascinated by it because I'm like, oh my goodness, they have to have so much self-control and they have to be able to do this. And I wish I could do that, right?
Okay.
But the reality is that wishing is not going to get it done. But if I decided to be the champion in that, there's so many options and opportunities because we know just about everywhere there are places that you can go to learn martial arts. There are places that you can go to learn boxing. And sometimes it's not that we don't have the resources around us. It's just we don't have a kick in the butt. So we are going to talk about being the champion and what that means. So first, Jillian, tell them a little bit about yourself.
Well, I guess I should start off with that I'm a boxer and mixed martial artist, since you're talking about that. I started training in martial arts when I was 12 in Taekwondo. I got my black belt when I was around 15, and then later, in my 20s, I started taking Wing Chun, another form of martial arts, and got my black belt there. And then now I train in boxing and Muay Thai, which is a form of mixed martial arts. So along with that, I'm also an author, and I'm a speaker and a life coach, and I'm also an award-winning filmmaker, writer, director, producer. That is I.
That's great. And that takes us to a whole nother thing because with being the author and a speaker and a coach, and then on top of that, all of that, if that wasn't awesome enough, on top of that, being a screenwriter, we look at this journey of being an author, and sometimes we're like, oh, we see some people's books turn into movies and turn into shows and turn into plays, and we're like, oh my goodness, there we go with that. I wish I could do that. So what's something that you would say to someone who's trying to go on that path of the author, the speaker, the coach, the screenwriter? What would you say? What would be the first thing that you would say to them?
Well, the first thing, they have to find out the first one that they truly love, whatever that is, because, you have to love it because you have to do it, eat, sleep, drink, breathe it. So if it's not the first thing you think about when you wake up, it's not the last thing you think about before you go to bed, it's not a passion for you. So if you want to be an author, obviously you have to learn how to write, depending on what genre you're going into. If it's nonfiction or fiction, you still have to do a lot of studying and take courses, if it's online or at a college or something. You have to, because people, I was a reporter for the Wall Street Journal for a number of years, and they have such a high standard for how you write that when I read people's papers or I look at people's letters now, I cringe because so many people don't know how to write well. So people really need to brush up on that. They need to do that. You have to be an excellent writer in order to write a book. You just have to. That's the first thing. So you have to start doing like the legwork. You have to put the work in. That would be first. From there, you have to start learning how to not only be a great writer, but then what it entails to write a book. There's different ways how you have to format it, whether you're going to be self-publishing, whether you're going to be traditionally published. It's different ways of how you have to do things. So you have to learn how to do that. And it's different between being a screenwriter and being a novelist or something. I tell people that all the time. They always come to me and say, I'm a novelist. How can I turn my book into a screenplay? Totally different things. That's a whole other subject matter of how to study to be a screenwriter. So you take the baby steps. If you love writing, you want to be an author, you start there. You do the work there first and get your book published. Either you're going to self-publish it, or either you're going to try to go the traditional route and try to get a literary agent and then get like one of the publishing houses to publish it. But you have to decide which one you want to do first, and then you take the steps from there.
And that's saying a lot. I know that, again, sometimes our eyes are bigger than our stomachs, let's be honest. So when it comes to being that champion and saying, this is what I really want to do, well, what does that really mean? What are the processes? What are the steps? I often say, you have to become the expert in that industry if that's something that you really want to do.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, definitely. Like I said, you have to eat, sleep, and drink, breathe this. If that's what you want to do, you have to do it all the time. You can't do it half the time. You can't even if you work, you go to work, you come home, and then you're like looking at TV for the rest of the night, as opposed to getting online and practicing your craft. And it is a craft of writing, whether it's a nonfiction book, a self-help book, or whether it's a novel, which is two different type of genres. So to be a novelist is even, to me, I think is even harder because you have to be so creative in how you spin the story, develop your characters, have your plot. It's a lot that goes into that. You have to study that. People think they could just jump out there and just write, but it's not like that. It's like anything that you do. It's like if you're trying to become a boxer, you can't just jump in the ring and think you're going to win a fight, and you haven't practiced, any drills. You haven't been running, hit the speed bag, doing the jump rope, sparring. You're going to get your head knocked off in that ring. So it's still the same thing. You have to do the legwork before you take that bigger step.
Oh my goodness. So I almost just bust out laughing because I'm very visual. And so I just thought of the Rock'em Sock'em. I just immediately envisioned myself as a Rock'em Sock'em person and my head being knocked off of my body. Because that's a lot of training. And that was one of the reasons why I chose the title for today, guys. Be the champion. When people go into boxing, literally, there is a lot of training just to be able to get in the ring. Like, you can't just on day one jump in the ring and expect that you're just going to knock somebody out. It doesn't happen that way. I know in our minds, we're kind of like, yes, because I know that I'm going to knock somebody out. And then you go in there and you run around the ring once and you passed out because you can't breathe.
Yes, that's not a good thing.
That's not a good thing at all. I know. I'm like thinking in my mind going, oh my goodness, that would be amazing. And then you go, wait a minute. They have to train a lot. So when you think of being the champion, when it came to the boxing, how much training did you have to do on a daily basis?
Well, it is a lot of training. Actually, I'm training right now for a fight for mixed martial arts. So, your diet, you have to clean your diet up. You got to eat a certain way. You got to train a certain way, a certain amount of numbers of hours a day. which is a lot because you can't just do mixed martial arts. You have to also do the conditioning, the running, the jumping rope, all that stuff to get your cardio conditioning up. And you have to do you have to do so much. You still have to do weight training because you have to get your power up so you can punch hard or kick hard. So you have to do, the weightlifting. I do kettlebell training. I do a lot of kettlebell training because kettlebell training is one of the best exercises a person can do, period. But specifically for like athletes, like a boxer or martial artist, because it's conditioning and cardio in the same exercise. So you don't have to do weights, which is just strength, and then you have to do cardio. You could do both of them together and get a dynamic workout to do both. So that is my choice to do. So you train a couple hours a day, and then you go do your other training. So it's a lot. It's a lot of work. But
so y'all heard her, right? She just said that you do the training and then you go to training. Y'all missed that part. I know you did. Somebody blinked and missed that whole section. You go to training and then you go to training. It's not like, oh, I spend 30 minutes because when we think about working out, we're like, oh, if I do 30 minutes, I'm good. 30 minutes, man, I knocked it out the park. No, that's not what she said. That is not champion mindset material. That is not what she said at all. She said you go to the training and then you go to the training. And when we look at it from boxing, and she talked about writing for Wall Street, and even as the speaker, as the author, you go from the training to the training. So I'm always, learning. I'm always growing. I'm always listening to books, reading books, listening to podcasts. I'm always taking time out to see whatever else it is that I need to do in order to be the best version of myself. And we can't always put a time stamp on that.
Right, you can. I mean, some things take longer than other things because it's just, you might struggle with it. You might struggle with, like say, it's like if you want to run a marathon. Again, you're not going to get out there and run 26.2 miles in a day. It takes an average of 6 months to train for a marathon. 6 months, an average. And that's if you're already pretty good shape. So if you're not in great shape, it'll probably take you about a year because you have to, like, if you've never ran in your day in your life or you haven't ran for a long time or anything, it'll probably take you like a year. So that's a long time to commit to something. But if you really want to do it, you got to, like, again, you got to do the baby steps. You might have to walk on the treadmill for a half hour first because that's all you can do. And then, next time you might be able to, pick up the speed a little bit. Then a little bit later, you might be do a little jog for 5 minutes. And that 5 minutes becomes 10 minutes and comes a half hour, comes an hour. Then you're feeling pretty good. You say, okay, I can go out on the street and start running or run around a track. You got your wind up. You can do pretty good. But it started with you just walking on the treadmill. And then 6 months or a year later, you're running 26.2 miles. But it takes that dedication. It takes you putting in the grind and the work, and regardless of what's going on in your life, whether if you have, a job, kids and everything. Like, when I worked at the Wall Street Journal, I was also in college. And I was a single parent to 3 children. So here you go. I'm working a full-time job. I'm going to school full-time, and I have 3 kids, young kids, that I'm raising as a single parent. So there was no excuses. I couldn't use excuses because I have 3 children. I can't do this, I mean, I could have, but your statement today of the name of our show is The Champion. Well, my mindset had to think like a champion and say, well, this is what I have to do to provide a better life for myself, provide a better life for my children. So I have to just keep doing the best that I can. And that's what I did.
That speaks volumes. It's interesting because I just recently had my teenage girls do something called a teen chat. And, they were talking about, it was National Walkout Day yesterday. And my oldest daughter has been taking a public speaking course and she's in high school. And, her teacher just told her that she did an excellent job. You're a natural. And she said it took everything in her not to say, because my mom's a motivational speaker. But we have to understand, too, when we decide to be the champion, we're also opening up the door and showing them all the behind the scenes of what it means to be a champion as well. And so that's a powerful statement.
Yes, I mean, you are the role model for your children. They look to the parent to say, how they should go. I always instill that in my children, that they have to be even better than 100% in whatever they do in life, whether it's education or whatever, because one, they're of color. That says it right there. So they always have to do more. And two, you just want to be a better person within yourself. You want to always be growing and learning and changing. And I am so fortunate that I have 3 children who are adults now, and all of them are successful, highly successful, educated, well-to-do, on their own, and I couldn't be prouder. But that was putting in that, again, no matter what you do, even raising children, you have to put the work into that. You can't leave it to the schools to do it, to TV to do it, to celebrities to do it. That's your responsibility to make sure you are present in your child's life and be there for the children to guide them. You have to guide them, or they'll get lost and they'll do whatever. But I've never had that problem. My children never got in trouble with the law. They never got in trouble, doing anything they had no business doing. So I was very fortunate, but I had to be very stern with them and guide them, and put my foot down when it was necessary, because you got to discipline your children. So especially when I raised two boys, I had 2 boys and a daughter, so that was very important. I didn't want my sons to get caught up in the street life, and wrong environment, involved with drugs or criminal activity. So I had to be extra tough on them, but it paid off because, like I said, they're well educated. My oldest son is getting a PhD right now. He speaks 5 languages. My middle son works for the TV show The Talk in Hollywood. He's in the entertainment industry. And my daughter's a financial banker. She bought her own home when she was in her 20s. Her own home. I was so proud when she did that. And these things make a parent feel great because they know that you did well by your children and you did what you should do to make sure they were very productive and successful.
The funny thing is, that was one of the things that they said, the teens said when they were live, was that, when you look at the teens that are, around today and what they're doing and what they're saying and how they're acting, you also have to take a look at the parents and say, okay, we get it that, there's outside influences, but there's also an inside influence. And whatever's going on in the home is going to influence them just as much, if not more, than what's influencing them outside.
Oh, definitely. I mean, to me, like I said, I don't care what outside influence are happening. The parents have to be the rock, whether you're 2-parent household or single parent like I was. And people say that to me too when I give speeches and everything. That how do you raise your kids to be like that? And that's not even my niche. I don't even talk about. One of my topics is not even talking about how to raise children. Maybe I should change my topics, but people do always come up to me and ask me that. They're like, well, how did you raise your kids to be so great? And like I know I didn't do everything perfectly as a parent, what parent does, but I laid a foundation of what they would be acceptable, what would not be acceptable. Like one example, like each of my children had to work when they were 14. You had to go get a job when you were 14. Not only did you have to get a job, you had to pay rent. They pay $50 a week for rent. The reason why I did this is because I said, when you get out into the world and you go off to your own, which was another rule, 18, you leave this house. You have no reason to still be here. If I prepared you properly, you should be in college. If you do not want to go to college right away, then you have enough money saved up so you can get your own apartment. Either way, 18, you're out the house. I've done my job as a parent. So 14, they start working, then they pay rent. That way, I said, whenever you're out on your own, I don't care if you don't have electricity on. I don't care if you don't have food. I don't care if you don't have enough money to get to work or you have to walk. You always want to have a roof over your head. somewhere to lay your head, a roof. So by paying rent, they learn the lesson of I pay rent first. After that, I take care of my other bills. Worked out fine. They all left home at 18. Nobody ever came back home.
That is amazing. You know, and you hear so many different stories when it comes to our children and trying to raise champion children. It's an interesting scenario in the society that we have right now. But I found that, you know, communication is key and support is key. But yeah, having those key elements of foundation, you know, you still have a lot. And I can't understand this for me. I can't understand it. We still have children who go to college who don't know how to cook for themselves or do their own laundry.
Oh, it is ridiculous. I'm serious. People come up to me. I said, again, I might have to change my speaking topics and start, talking about how to raise children or something. But people come up to me all the time and say that. They're like, well, my child doesn't know how to cook and clean. I'm like, whose fault is that? You didn't teach them, so how will they know? I know people who their kids don't know how to do that, and I'm like, I don't understand. My kids learn young. They learn how to cook. They learn how to clean. They learn how to sort their clothes and put the whites in here. They put the colors in here. They started that when they were like 7. That way, I wanted them to be independent and be able to take care of themselves no matter what's going on in my life. They know that they can go in there and fix themselves a burger or something to take care of themselves. Go wash their clothes. I taught them how to balance their checkbooks. When they got a job at 14, you got to learn how to balance your checkbooks so you can pay your rent. And then you can pay, like I said, your other stuff. But you have to be able to balance your checkbook in order to do that. So who's going to teach them? If I don't teach them, they don't get taught that stuff in school. So it's my job.
I love it. I love it. Yes. And people look at me and they go, wait, your children, they do what? They cook. Yes, everybody has a night that they cook dinner for everyone in the home. Mm-hmm. And that means they prepare it. They figure out what they're going to cook. They make sure they have the supplies and they cook it. And it's not, they look at their peers at school and their peers are like, oh, well, I might, I don't know what I'm gonna fix. I'll just get some oodles and noodles or something. And they're like, well, what do you have at the house? Like, you can't make something? And everybody gets to that point where they don't want to cook. It's a given. Nobody wants to cook every day.
Right.
But you should know how to make some staple pieces. Spaghetti is a staple. Like, you should know
eggs, scrambled eggs, spaghetti, a salad. Make a salad. That's simple. Make a salad.
Exactly. Some pancakes. You should know how to make the staple pieces of food.
Basics. But again, it falls back on parents. It definitely falls back on parents. Everything to me, like, I remember when my sons were growing up, I used to hear it all the time that, your sons need a man around and this and that. And I said, it's a bunch of bull. Because, if you train them properly, they don't, it'd be nice if you had the husband in the house or something, but it doesn't always go that way. With 50% divorce rate, it doesn't go that way all the time. So you got to do what you got to do. And you can't use that as an excuse to say, oh, my boys can run the street and act wild and crazy and get into trouble with the law just because the man is not in the house. That's an excuse. And I refuse to hear that, which is, again, why I had to be very stern with my sons. But I also talked to them. I explained them why. Like, I remember back in the day, kids probably, they obviously don't know this, but back in the day, instead of cell phones, they had beepers, And I told my sons when their friends had beepers, and I said, you can't have a beeper. Then I tell them why. Because only 2 people carry beepers. 2 people carry beepers: drug dealers, a doctor. You're the one, so you don't get a beeper. They're like, oh, okay, I understand. There you go.
Yeah, I can definitely understand that, but it's, I guess, with time that has changed and so many things going on, you have people that they just don't see it that way. They just don't see the foundational things that are necessary for our children. And it makes for an interesting conversation. But again, like I said, when we're moving towards not only being the champion ourselves, but raising champion children. Also, having champion clients, because you're a life coach and I'm a life coach as well. And when we think about literally, that's the journey we're taking our clients, is we want them to be the champion of their lives. We want them to look at themselves, look at what they've been through, say, I'm an overcomer, and be able to express that. It definitely express that and determine that, listen, things happen, situations come about, but how I act and react to it is literally going to take me to a whole new level. So guys, this has been an amazing conversation. If you don't know, thank you for all the replay viewers. Thank you for sharing out the broadcast, sharing it out no matter what platform you're following on. And if this is your first time catching us, guess what? It is a great place to be. We appreciate you coming in. We appreciate you having you on. Put in the comments your questions. We always come back and engage with you. And don't forget to hit that follow or subscribe button and come back when you see that a new episode has been updated. And as a speaker or an author, you have an opportunity as well to come on the platform and be a guest by going to bit.ly/speakeasy podcast, all lowercase. That's bit.ly/speakeasy podcast. Guys, what does champion mean to you? What does being the champion mean to you? What does it look like for you? How important is being the champion for you? I know in today's society, we've even gone to this whole extreme of, I'm going to go and, people get a medal or get an award for just showing up. And, have we kind of watered down this idea of what it means to be a champion? Because champions don't want a medal for showing up. Champions want a medal for showing up and showing out. Going to the extreme with it, being at that next level and showing everything that you're able to do. You don't want to just get the medal for showing up. You don't. I mean, granted, you have some people who do, but I don't think that's a great example to share, especially with our children. So we've had a lot of discussions that have come in when it comes to, do we give medals and awards and certificates for people just showing up? Now, I'm not saying, because some people go to the extreme and want to humiliate children and all type. That's not what I'm saying at all. But I do want to say that, okay, giving somebody a participation medal in some instances is not always a good thing, because when they're in the real world, when they're in society, guess what? They may not get the participation medal. They may not get a certificate. The reality is when they go to a job, they're not going to say, great job for showing up. And when they do, it's only because they want you to continue to work at a certain level, and they just trying to keep the morale up. It's a piece of paper that they printed out. They didn't even print it out on good paper. It got printed out on regular paper. So we really have to, go back and have that understanding that, guess what? I don't know if that's really the way we want to go. I don't know if that's really what we think of when we see a champion. When we see the LeBron James, when we see the Michael Jordans, and when we see all of the Steph Currys and all of these people when it comes to the athletes, when we see all of these people when it comes to the actors and actresses, they take a lot and do a lot in order to be able to be called the champion, in order to be able to be called the expert in their industry. They do a lot. They do acting classes. They work out. They take care of their bodies. I know that we go and, I'm going to have a cupcake. It's all right. A cupcake ain't going to do nothing wrong. a cupcake ain't gonna hurt me. And then 15 cupcakes later, we've kind of gotten to this point where we're like, what's the point of even trying anymore? Guys, you have to have the mindset that I'm gonna make this work by any means necessary. I'm not even going to attempt to look at the cupcake. No. Sometimes you got to learn to shut things out and shut things down. But with that being said, guess what? You have it in you to be the champion. No matter what, you have it in you to be the champion. Are you willing to do the work? Y'all know Kevin Hart always talks about everybody want to be famous, but don't nobody want to put the work in. Well, are you willing to put in the work? When it comes to being the author or the speaker, there's a lot of work that has to be put in. You're reading, you're stretching yourself, you're coming out of your comfort zone, you're preparing each and every day. You're literally always looking at what you're doing and critiquing it so you can become the best. If I decide that I'm going to be the best speaker, then what happens? I need to make sure that I'm reading all the books. I'm taking whatever classes I can take. I'm putting it into practice. I think that's another piece of that championship journey that people miss out on, is they're not putting things into practice. They're not. They're just simply saying, I'm reading the books, and so now I'm the expert. I went and I took the class. I might have took it, and now I'm the expert. Oh, she's back in. Hey, Jillian.
Hey, I don't know what happened there, but okay.
Not a problem at all. So I was just saying that, you know, as the author, as the speaker, as anything that we decide that we're going to do, a lot of people come into it and, you know, they're like, okay, well, I'm going to go and I'm going to get the information, and we gather up all this information and then there's no execution. And so we're the expert at collecting information. What would you say to people like that?
Again, you know, no one can make someone do what they need to do to fulfill their dream or whatever. No one can push you. No one can force you. No one can make you do it. It has to be, again, something that you eat, sleep, drink, and breathe. It has to be the first thing you think about when you get up, the last thing you think about when you go to bed. It has to be. So even when you're at work, I know you're doing your work, but if you're on a break, again, let's go back to you trying to train for your marathon or something. You know, some people have like an hour break. Well, I know people who on an hour break, they'll go running for a half hour. They'll go running, and then they'll come back because they have showers at their job or something, and they'll take a shower. And then they go back to work. So it depends on how bad you want it, and it depends on mapping out a plan for the steps that you have to take to make that goal. Like you said, you're running that marathon, you know, it's going to take you 6 months or a year. And then you map out the program, even if you have to get an instructor to help you, a running coach to help you, to map it out, to say, okay, I run this, because when you first start off, they would say, oh, you walk 3 miles, you rest, you walk 3 minutes, you walk 3 minutes, and then you run a minute. You walk 3 minutes, you run a minute. See, that's how you build up your stamina. So you would know that, but you have to go get some coaching, or you read about it online, The Beginner's Way to Run a Marathon. And then, you start taking the steps, and it teaches you how to eat properly, to run and have the endurance and everything. And then you just follow along that path, and you keep a chart, a journal of your progress each time that you go out. I mean, if you miss it, a couple of days because you're sick or something comes up, that's fine. Don't they let that discourage you. Just get back on the wagon and keep pushing it through, and eventually you'll be where you want to be. That's in anything that you want to do. You want to write a book, start off with your drafts. Might write, you put it in your mind. Like I'm a writer. I write at least in the morning. I get up at 4. So my writing is from 4 to 7 every morning. That's like a staple. If I can get in more, I do. If I can't, I can't, because you have to go to gym, train, all this other stuff, go to work and all. But definitely 4 to 7 is my time to write. So I know I lock that in. And I don't let anything distract me from doing that writing. The place is quiet, my place is quiet, and that's when I write. But people have to have a pattern. They have to work things out how they want to do it. Maybe you might write at night after the kids are in bed or whatever. Okay, you might write from 8 to 11. That might be your time. Depends on, you have to make it happen though. You can't make excuses for why you can't fit it into your schedule. We're all busy. You just have to niche it out. It depends on how bad you want it.
You made a so important statement right then and there, because they talk about, at one point the entrepreneur got up at 6 a.m. And they said, if you wanted to be a successful entrepreneur, you were up at 6 a.m. And that's changed. Changed. That now the entrepreneur is up at 4 a.m. And if you say that to someone who's not a morning person, they would cuss you out and say something's wrong with you. They cuss you out and say something is wrong with you. Why are you up so early in the morning? Go back to bed. But someone who's passionate about something, 4 a.m. is not a problem. Even if you're someone who's not a morning person. I know that Lewis Howes wrote a book called The Millionaire Morning. And he talked about how mornings, he hates mornings. But he knew that was the way for him to get things started. And that meant that he had to set his alarm clock. He had to fake himself out or whatever he had to do to get up, to get it done. You make it happen.
Right. I mean, like I said, okay, if you're not a morning person, you have to do it at night. You have to carve out the couple hours at night to do your writing or do whatever you need to do. If you really can't get up that early, that really is going to mess your head up. Do it at night. I can't write at night. That's my mindset can't work that way. By that time, I have to be fresh and to do my writing, to be creative. I have to be fresh. And the only way I'm like that is in the morning. I get up, I have my protein drink, start the day, and then I'm ready to write and do what I need to do for my next 3 hours.
I'm the same way. I'm up early in the morning. People know, my clients know by 5 o'clock. Oh, she's already got the day started. They know. They know.
Right.
They know that they may receive a message at me at 4:30, 5:30. They know because they know me. Now, I know which ones are on the West Coast. So I don't send a message that early.
Right.
Send them a message that early. But that's one of the things that I've always said to my clients is that whatever is your niche, whatever is your area when it comes to timing, you stick with that. If that's you waking up early or going to bed later, that's fine. But you have to be willing to do something every day. We can't get stuck in, I didn't do it today, so I'll just do it tomorrow. If tomorrow never comes, then
what? Definitely. I agree. Definitely.
So when we think about champions, because we are champions, when we think about being the champion, I can't put off to tomorrow what I can get done today, guys.
Definitely. I mean, even it's like, if you can't get if I can't get my full 3 hours in, if I can get an hour in, it's something. At least I can say it's done. At least I have something done. Same with my training. If I can't get in all the training for whatever reason, if I do something, it makes me feel better. It makes me feel that I'm one step closer to that goal of, achieving my goal. I mean, obviously, if I'm training for a fight, that's different. You have to be focused, so there's no missing days of training. But when I'm not training for a fight, I still train because I have to keep myself sane. To me, I have to train just to keep myself mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally healthy. So that's how I function. Again, everybody's different. Everybody has to find their niche of what makes them healthy. But everybody needs to work out, obviously, because it's just good for your heart, your body, your soul, everything. It's just, whether you're walking or whether you're lifting a little weights, whether you're doing yoga, whether you're doing Zumba, kettlebells, whatever, as long as you do something to keep that blood flowing, because that helps you, live longer and be healthier. That's what we all want.
Yes, indeed. So one of the questions that I always ask authors and speakers when they come onto the show is, what has been a blunder for you along this journey? A lot of times people think when they see us get to a certain level, they're like, oh, they have it all together. So they may look at you and say, oh, she's the boxer and she's in good health and she's been a reporter for Wall Street and she's done this and she's a screenwriter. Oh, she got it all together. And then when we think back in our own mind, we're like,
Yeah, there was a time actually that I gave up speaking. I did, because I just I felt like a fraud. And then I remember I was listening to Lisa Nichols. We all know who she is, one of the best motivational speakers out there. And she said, you have the imposter syndrome. She said, when you have the imposter syndrome, here's what you do. And that's what I was feeling like. I was like, oh, my life is not perfect in every way. And I said, oh, I just stopped speaking. I said, I can't do it. I just don't want to go out there and say what I need to say to people, and knowing inside I'm not perfect. But you're not going to be perfect because you're always a work in progress. And that's what you have to understand. You have to understand that for yourself, that you're a work in progress. As long as you are striving to do better in your life and to clean up your own act and to eliminate your own baggage and to not make the excuses and stuff like that. As long as you're working toward growing each and every day, no one expects you to be perfect. I mean, people do hold you to a higher standard when you're a life coach and a speaker and everything, because they are looking for you for guidance. So you cannot be out there saying, hey, it's not good to be out there, smoking and drinking and using drugs. The next thing they see you getting arrested for smoking and drinking and doing drugs. That is a no-no. You can't be like that. But, if you are, not your perfect weight, or you're not your perfect regimen, or you're not your perfect, doing everything perfect, you can't just badger yourself and say, oh, I just might as well quit like I did. But I'm back on it now, thank goodness. But it took me a long time to come to grips with that understanding.
And I think that's a major one. There's a lot of people that go through the whole imposter syndrome and thinking that I'm not enough. And it's because we're trying to see ourselves or think that we can see ourselves through other people's eyes. And
right.
Most times we're wrong.
Right. Yeah, most times we are wrong. And again, that's why I said I was going through that for a while and I stopped speaking, and I was like just not feeling that I was the right person to be speaking to people. But like I said, I try to talk to people, tell them a little bit about my life, and from what I've overcome in my life to where I am now, I have made tremendous strides considering, how I grew up being on the streets, homeless, involved with criminal activity, prostitution, drug addiction, and everything like that, to being where I am today. I have made great leaps and bounds. So I can at least talk on resilience, on how to think like a champion, how to think like a warrior, how to turn your life around, transform your life. I can talk about those things because I have done that. So that I can talk about as an expert and give people that type of tips and suggestions and, just advice.
I love it. There's so many things, so many aspects of your life that can be shared and can impact so many other people. I love every bit of it. I love every bit of it. So I want you to let people know how they can reach out to you, how they can connect with you, and where they can find you on social media.
Well, if you want to reach out to me, you can just go to Jillian Bullock Speaker, since I'm back to speaking now. Jillian Bullock Speaker. They can reach me that way. They can reach me on Facebook, Twitter. Just put in my name. If you just Google my name, everything pops up. I did that the other day. I was like, I didn't know so much stuff was out there on me. So just Google Jillian Bullock and you will find everything.
It's funny you say that. I always tell people, Google yourself. When people are looking for you, Google yourself and see what they see. Because some of y'all may still have a MySpace page and you may not want that to come.
Oh my goodness, I hope not.
You may not want that to be what they see. when they
No, no.
may not
That's funny.
or MySpace or BlackPlanet.com account. You may not want that Google pops up. So you might want to just Google yourself just to be on the safe side. That's a little extra secret sauce for you guys.
That's funny. Oh no, so all my stuff is good. So all my stuff is professional, is good. So I don't have to worry about that.
Right, exactly. I made sure that I did that because now I've had some people Google themselves and they were like, somebody had the exact same name as me that died, and I just like, that's a little odd. But I had one person do it, and she found out that one of her books was a bestseller.
Okay.
So I said, you never know. You need to really put yourself out there and make sure that you're staying up on that. Because it may help you out. Yeah.
Definitely. Because you want to make sure that what everybody sees is professional, is correct. And so you don't get any negative, press, negative anything. Because that your reputation, you are your brand. So since you are your brand, people look to you and they expect to see everything professional when they go Google you. So it's important to just check yourself just to make sure.
Yes, indeed. And with that being said, guys, I want to say I appreciate each and every one of you. If you're catching this the replay, no matter what platform it is on, I appreciate you because there would be no Speak Easy podcast. If there were no listeners and viewers, there would be nothing, guys. It would just be me talking to myself and possibly answering myself. But I'm not sure how far that is. If you are a speaker or an author, by all means, reach out so that way you can be a guest on the Speak Easy podcast by going to bit.ly/Speak Easy podcast, all lowercase. We look forward to engaging with you guys some more. And if you have any questions, put them in the comments section or send us out a message, connect with Jillian directly so that way you can get the information that you need so you can be the champion. Guys, until next time, don't forget to press it out.